and spend time with our daughter. That's it. That's all I like really press on, and that's where my frustration comes. His lack
But
of
Sarah,
interest.
but Sarah, the way that Nia was able to get Chris to do that and to be more active and to show up and do what he was supposed to do, because your daughter deserves to live. I mean, she probably lives well now, but
Jason,
what I'm saying is,
can I ask you a question?
yes.
Chris Brown ain't walking around with 1,006 9s on his head, all over his body in wigs. All right, they're two different people. He's so far. The frustration I have with dealing, and I don't speak to him.
I almost want to say, first of all, I can't even deal with you right now. What she basically said was Chris Brown ain't walking around like a clown with a damn lace front on his neck. Like, I get
That's
it.
literally
I
what she
understand.
said. That's literally what she said.
His way of thinking is completely different, I think, from the average man and person right now. I don't.
Clearly.
That's what I'm trying to
But
point
you're,
out.
but if he can go on the Shade Room and tell my friend Angie that he pays $15,000 for each wig he does, he can make sure that Soraya has a college fund set up, that she has any private schooling she wants to go to.
I'm completely personal with you. He said he spent more on his girlfriend in 1 year than what he has put away for our daughter in a bank account.
Wow.
But that's the point. You have the power to go and hold him accountable. He ain't new to the courts.
And let me tell you something. I've gone, all right, so it was early 2019, and this was maybe a little after the last incident that he put his hands on me, and then he went away to jail and just completely cut all communication. So at this point, I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing he's cooperating. I'm hearing all these other things. So I'm like, he didn't leave us with anything. Completely, like, he left us out to dry while he got locked up and took care of the people that he wanted to take care of. So I went to child support. I filed the case or whatever. I did all of that. When I went again to follow up. They're telling me that it's like obsolete. Like, there's nothing in the system. I don't have a case number, nothing under my name, nothing. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. I was just here last week. And
so it just disappeared?
Like, it was deleted. Like, it was removed from the system. So listen to this. The lady who was working the counter looking it up. Anywhere I go, especially after that point, I was super under the radar. I didn't want to go to a public building in Brooklyn to family court to, just be spotted or whatever. I was taking caution with those things. So I had a hoodie on, and she was like, I know who you are. And I'm like, do you? She goes, yeah. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm a publicist. And she was, I guess, promoting herself. And she goes, I'm
the lady working at the courthouse?
Yeah. She was like,
messy.
She was like, there are people who remove cases. She was like, I'm gonna put it in and I'm gonna send it through for you. So I went ahead and I was like, I was grateful. I was like, oh my God, thank you. She's like, don't worry, get what you're supposed to get for your daughter. That's what she told me. So I had ended up moving. So the county that I moved to, I had I followed up with them. So again, it's removed out the system. And I'm not gonna lie, after hearing that it was taken out of the system, or I don't even know how it works, but they weren't finding anything, and I was going back and reapplying. It was so frustrating. So it's just like, you know what? I took it as he got a good fucking lawyer, okay? Because whoever it is that's removing my case, he's really not trying to help me. So it was just frustrating and embarrassing that I gotta keep on doing this for you to want to do for your daughter. So I just said, forget the whole thing.
That's interesting.
I'm gonna help you figure that out. I got a little idea. I'm gonna help you figure that out because my mother did. I grew up, with my mom who fell on drugs, and my dad wasn't in my life. And when she got on drugs, and even before then, we struggled. And she would always talk about my dad's child support. That child support never showed up. He never paid it. this dude got the money to pay for it, and the fact that he can like just run around and talk about how much he's spending on wigs and not taking care of his daughter is not cool.
Ugly wigs, by the way.
No, it's just like I've been through so much with this guy. It's just like I can't sit and even separate it from him, bring myself to the level to even go back to fighting with him in the slightest way. That is just like, it's not gonna do anything because he just does whatever he wants. Nobody could really tell him nothing, and it's always really been that way. So whenever he decides to be a dad, that's when it's gonna happen. Not because someone told him, not because a court is like. It's just that's just the way he's wired.
But I think it's less about being a dad though, and more about protecting Soraya and making sure that she has all the resources that she should have, right?
Yep. Absolutely. My daughter right now is on the spectrum. Like, she's on the spectrum for autism. Everything that services, all of that, that's me. Like, me and my family and the people that I have around me that help with that. He doesn't help with that. I mean, the last conversation I had with him months ago, well, that he had with my mom in front of me because he can't bring himself to have any words to say to me. He was like acting as if he was involved or wanted to be involved with figuring that out. That didn't happen. He completely went MIA. He wanted to be on board with planning my daughter's birthday. Completely been MIA. He hasn't been around for months. And I feel like the only reason why he did come around a few months ago was, so he can later on that week have TMZ put out that he said sorry to me. He made amends with me. He sees his daughter. He provides after one initial meeting, after a whole year and a half of you not reaching out or doing what you said we're gonna do.
So when he transitioned into the clown that we know now, when did you become concerned where his antics with all this blood gang stuff and the going to different hoods and disrespecting people's dead homies, did you ever feel like there could be a security issue for you and your daughter because people know who you are and know Jason, that he has a daughter with you?
After in 2018, after he got robbed, he hired one of the best security teams out there. So he had maybe like 10 guys around him building a wall that would be in my house every day, and all 10 of those guys would leave. Knowing that people came to my house and we didn't actually move yet, and they robbed him, they stuck him up or whatever, it was uneasy, especially with what he said to me. He told me, like, what was said, like, towards the guy that robbed him, basically was like, who's upstairs inside? This is like what he told me. And he was like, Sara, my mom, and the baby, please let me call her. He was like, this is from what Danny told me, the guy said. He was like, all right, if she tries some funny shit, we're gonna have to shoot her.
No.
So yeah, he told me that after the fact, and I didn't have my daughter home with me for a while until I figured out the whole relocating thing, because he still wanted to live where we were living because he felt safe, because every day he walked out with all 10 of the security and didn't leave at least one or two home with me and his daughter. I guess his safety was more important, but it's just, that's the way he saw it. So
was there ever a time when you felt like any day somebody could just show up and hurt you and your daughter?
My thing is, I feel because of the job that I've done, like having made it very clear where I draw the line between me and him. Like, I make it very clear he don't really care about us. So anyone with a brain knows, like, if anything was to happen, God forbid, it's not gonna really do as much damage to him. It's unfortunate to him as sad and crazy as it is to hear it, or as it sounds, anybody knows hurting us ain't really gonna hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
infuriating. That's infuriating.
And so for timeline purposes, just so people are following this, because again, sometimes people don't hear, they just hear what they want to hear. You guys met in 2012. You were 15, 16 years old. Eventually got into a relationship, 18 years old, had a kid at 19. Now, in 2015, you weren't aware of the sexual assault case that he's in the news about, right?
I was with him before the case. I was with him after the case. My thing with that whole situation was months before that, I didn't really want to be with him. And I was, separating myself. I had moved out. But on my birthday, I did find out I was pregnant. So he ended up giving me this talk. He's all in my mouth, oh, we're going to have this family. I was just tired of him trying to, at this time, he was building the whole Tekashi 6ix9ine name. So he was just being super disrespectful, suplexing girls on beds, just had this whole nasty demeanor that was slowly just turning me off and pushing me away. I was tired of seeing someone that I love and cared about on World Star every day because he's doing some stupid stuff to a girl. So I get it. Everybody was reposting him. Snoop Dogg, everybody. That's the most attention he ever got. So that's what he stuck to. But
and then he got addicted to it, I'm assuming.
Yes, he did. And I had told him, I'm like, I don't want to be with you, but I'll see how this goes. Within that week, I think he got locked up. And I'm like, he's calling me from jail. I'm not really knowing what's going on. I get to the courtroom with his brother's girlfriend at the time because he was like, oh, he got court, got up here. And I'm hearing what his bail was, and then I'm hearing what the charges. I'm like, what did he do? It can't be worse than flipping a girl on the bed. And then that's when they read the papers, and he likes to put it wrong place, wrong time. It's just how is just the whole act of doing what you're doing still okay, no matter what age?
But what's interesting is the 13-year-old girl is saying that she was incoherent on drugs and did not consent to sex with him.
You can't blame a child. How are you blaming a child? She was a little girl. It's just, I have a daughter. I'm not gonna say that's good for you. You have no business being there. You sure you can't have no business being there, but grown men shouldn't have business having a young girl in that setting, just herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. She was a little girl. That's just what it is.
What are your thoughts about that? Do you think he likes little girls, or do you think it was wrong place, wrong time?
My thing is, I just feel like he saw one thing, and which is, I'm not gonna lie, he's always had this about himself. If he says he's gonna do something, he's gonna set forth to do it, no matter how it gets done. If he says he's gonna be famous, he's gonna do whatever it takes to be famous. If he says he's gonna be a rapper, if he says he's gonna hire all the best ghostwriters, he's gonna do whatever it is. That's just how he is. He's very over the top, and he likes to prove points from what we all can see. So it's just I never for once thought he had an attraction or issue with younger girls. It's just, you obviously knew she was younger, whether you knew her exact age. It's not something you do. That's just what it was with that situation. And I felt like it was a part of him being selfish and young too. But I don't excuse it, no.
So now I got to ask you with Shadi, he recently, again, on the conversation with Angie, said that he had gone through your phone and saw some text messages with you and Shadi.
He went through Shadi's phone.
Went through Shadi's phone, damage. Thank you, damage. Went through Shadi's phone, saw the text messages, and found out that you had allegedly slept with him. Did that happen, or did he make that up? Because that's what he uses as an excuse to why he hit you.
No, because he was hitting me way years before he even knew. Shotty existed. He says whatever he wants to say to benefit him. That was something so salacious that was like going all over the internet. So he used it to his advantage. He was always incoherent. He was drunk. While he was on tour, his tour manager was like, he's getting drunk every day. You know, I don't know what's going on. And it wasn't until that day that he got back from LA around November. It was already in November. This is way after Dubai. And those rumors started coming around in July when he says, I slept with Shadi or whatever. So it was just like, that was such like, he can't say I'm bugging out and I need to release this anger because I'm on pills or I'm high off coke right now. He's not going to tell me that. So he's going to find excuses. But it was that same day that he supposedly went through my phone, which was the day that he punched me in my mouth. He punched me in my mouth and kicked me out of our house at like by like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. I had all my stuff packed and I was out the house. What it was, I told him I was leaving him because while he was still in LA, this was November 9th, I think. I told him I was leaving him because I saw him in LA with his current girlfriend. I was like, you're cheating on me. I'm not really you're just embarrassing me. It's all over the internet that you're with this girl and you're flaunting her around. So I called my mom. I said, get me a U-Haul, come to our house, and I need you to help me pack all the things. Everything that's mine. And at the time, his mom lived with us, so she was calling him and let him know, like, Sarah's leaving. She's leaving with all her shit. So he booked a flight and came out here. He booked a flight with Shadi and came out here. And by the time I was ready to leave, he called my aunt that I used to always stay with, and he goes, oh, where are you? She goes, I'm at your house, actually. He goes, oh, so Sarah's not with you at your house? That's in Brooklyn. He flew all the way to our house in Long Island in a matter of it was less than 30 minutes as we're putting the stuff into the U-Haul. And he had the craziest deranged look in his face. He came with one security guard, and my parents were still in the house. So I'm like, he's going to beat my ass in front of my parents right now. Because this is like the first bold thing that I've ever done. Just like, he's not going to come back home to none of my stuff and none of my daughter's stuff. So I was already, that's why I had both my parents there with me. He was like, go upstairs, let me talk to you. I was completely scared. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. At this point, I'm completely terrified because he already beat me in Dubai. And I'm like, I'm not doing none of this. You're not gonna beat me upstairs while my parents are downstairs. He was like, I'll leave the door open. I said, okay. He was pacing back and forth in the room, telling me I can't leave, that he needs me. He was just saying things that didn't make sense. So I'm like, at this point, I'm scared because he grabbed me up. And my mom comes in the room because she heard me squeal just a little bit because I squealed. I jumped up. I was scared, when he grabbed me. So she was talking to him upstairs and he just dismissed himself and went in the shower. She was like, yo, he's acting crazy. He's pacing back and forth, whatever the case is. When my mom left, the security was still by the door.
Was he high or was he just
Listen,
angry?
I'm going to say it right now. The security was by the door and he had just got back. He came straight from the airport straight to to my aunt's house and then straight to, he did not unpack or nothing. So I'm going through his duffel. I start going through his duffel and the security grabbed me. He said, Sarah, what are you doing? I'm like, Sam, he's bugging out right now. He's scaring me. I need to see what he's on. I got to see what he's doing that is making him act this way. It's driving him nuts. Like, I've never seen a person go crazy until I saw him that day. So I was like, I got to see what's making him act this way. And I was like, Sam, is he on drugs? And I'm looking, and Sam just grabbed my hands again. He was like, don't ask me questions you don't want to know the answer to. And he just went like that. And I saw coke in the bag. So.
Yikes. I'm listening to the story, and I'm trying so hard to keep it in. But this is, like I mentioned, it's very infuriating but I'm taken aback by how calmly you're sharing these like trash, horrible stories about him. And so I'm wondering, like, have you gone to like a really great therapist? Is it prayer? Are you just so tired? You don't have energy? Like, how are you not burning his wigs? Like, I would be slashing his tires right now. Like, how are you so calm about all the stuff that he also tried to slander you on top of that. So how do you keep it in?
I feel like I would drive myself nuts trying to do everything he's doing to me. Does he look happy? Boy is like overdosing on caffeine. Like he looks completely lost. No matter what the situation is, I'm not gonna kick someone while they're down already, but I am gonna be honest and I am gonna be truthful. So if that bothers you, then I don't know what to tell you. But I can't say the only reason why I'm able to sit here and say these things about him is because he's given me reason to. You've done these things. I'm not saying anything that's not the truth. I'm not saying it in a way that I'm angry about it. Maybe frustrated sometimes that it does come across. And maybe I do have moments when I'm on the internet and I see little things, but it takes a lot to get a reaction out of me. It takes a lot to get a clap back from me. It's just like a lot, so it's just like in itself he's just a headache, and I already have 7 years of that. Let him be someone else's fucking mess. I can't do that. My focus is my daughter and getting my life together, and I don't have no hate in my heart for him. I honestly don't, because it's just like I don't have to hate him for everything he did. Whether it's God working with me, it's just like I'm just so grateful and happy I'm not in that place I was 2 years ago when I was with him.
Just for clarification on the story, there's no truth to the thing with you and Shadi.
No, it isn't. I don't know. He's really sick.
He completely made all of that up.
Yes, he did. And it's just like he took what was a headline to be something so salacious on like a little bum ass YouTube channel or whatever, and he really forcefully pushed that narrative to do all the things that he did to me, and it's just like I don't understand.
And like, so okay, so he had a kid with you and was in love with you and betrayed you. He became Shadi's understudy and allowed the Blood Gang to validate him for the street culture, and then he snitched on him. Who is he loyal to? Anybody?
To himself. There was guys that he wasn't accusing this on, he just had the biggest falling out with Shadi because I guess there was a money situation that he tried to use. I separated myself from my baby father before he went to jail and stuff, and before he started cooperating. And the two people, most like person that's there for him every day, 7 years, just left him. The person that he was completely close to, he's accusing them of stealing money. There was already this headline that was out there. What bigger way is just like to fuck with me than I'm big on my womanhood. I'm big on, my motherhood. I'm big on a lot of things just because of the way I was raised. So what better way to tarnish those things than to say the things that he's saying, things that matter to me, he wants to get at. And it's just like, I don't have to sit here. He failed tremendously. I don't care what anybody really says about me in whatever room I walk into, because the moment I open my mouth, I know it quickly changes, So it's just like, I don't have to sit here and defend any of those things to anybody on the internet, especially not no 12-year-olds.
So what do you think the biggest misconception is about you? Because like Blue had said, or one of us had said, I mean, looking at you, you're beautiful, you're articulate, you come from a good family, you, I'm sure, are a good mom. You didn't ask for all this. What do you think the biggest misconception is about you as a person?
that I'm just this bitter, angry person. I say this many times. You can't expect anything less or more from me on the internet. It would be a different story if it was like in person, but when you're on the internet and you have this false narrative that's out on you and these people swearing that they know your life more than you do, you're gonna be angry. You're gonna be frustrated sometimes, and it's just like at some point I had to understand that the internet holds no boundary. Like everything's fair game, so they're gonna say the most disrespectful things. So it's just like I learned not to care. That was something I really struggled with, and it's just like it don't even matter to me. Like these people don't pay my bills. They don't help me with my kid. They don't take care of my family. Like why do I really care? I have good friends and I have good family. And you think
But underneath all that not caring, you're still a human being with feelings. You still have a heart.
absolutely there are
Right.
that you, but I've grown so much like self love, and I've been so content with myself. It's just like yeah, I used to break down. There was times I'm like, oh no, they calling me. They saying I'm a Tatiana. They saying all these things. Or I'm for the streets. They wilding on me, and it's just like I'm far from this. Like, and it did hurt my. It hurt my like. It hurt my spirit. It hurt my esteem. I didn't want to go live. I didn't want to post pictures. I'm just like so over it. It's just I learned to completely just be content with my personal life and what I have going on with my personal life to care too much about what's going on with social media and what's being said, what's not being said.
So when your daughter Soraya asks you, "Where's my dad?" or "Daddy," or asked about him, what do you say, and how do you react to that?
Um, like I said, I have young parents, so my daughter she calls my dad dad. Um, Whenever she refers to dad, she talks about my father. My dad, he's more than I can ever ask for. He stepped up in a way that he didn't have to for me and for my daughter. So I we'll get there when we get there if she has questions, and we'll be open about that if he doesn't continue to make any changes, which would be sad. But it's just like my daughter is fine with or without him. So it's just, and I think that should be a low blow in itself, to him as a father and as a man, that your kid's better off if you're here.
Well, but you have to commit to us too that like even though you tried and the court has fucked you over and over whatever, you have to commit that for the sake of your daughter's future, for the sake of the way that all the resources in which you want to have in addition to what you already have to raise her, that you will continue to fight for what she's owed because it's not about
Absolutely.
you know.
I do think about that, and I do battle with myself a lot. It's just like he doesn't even take his safety serious. I be on. I don't. I feel like he only thinks about himself at this point, and I'd rather him just figure himself out in his life before he tries to re-enter my daughter's life. I'll give him that fair chance to get himself together before you bring that mess over here, because we don't need it. We've dealt with enough
Well,
between me and my daughter.
and if he's on cocaine and I mean,
Oh
he's
no, that's not
literally.
that. Obviously, that's not something I don't look. If you guys believe caffeine. I just know a lot of what used to go on and what did happen and what did take place. So it's just like I'm not gonna allow my daughter to be alone in a setting where I still feel like he doesn't value his safety, let alone the safety of others around him, including my daughter, especially
Are
that
you
he saves her for last.
are you surprised he hasn't been killed yet?
No, I'm not surprised. It's just like the internet's the internet. I know that he did affect so many people's life, including my own, in such a real way that it's just like whether it's good or bad, um, it's still very much real. And I know that's something that a lot of people who were affected, or whether it was secondhand or whatever, they still feel strongly about. But I feel like he's, as long as he got security, he gonna still be feeling invincible, like no one can touch him. He does a lot of
Well,
trolling, so he'll post he's somewhere and then really be somewhere else. He likes to strategize, like things he posts, social media, all of that. So I mean, that's always been him from when I was with him, and I know that's him now, at least with me knowing him and knowing his work ethic and when he sets out to do something. So
Well, one thing I will say, he's brilliant in respect to how he's been able to build his brand. I mean, when he did get out of prison, or jail, he had reached out. We had texted each other. I did want to interview him, but I explained to him, I'm not going to, like, I'm not sucking no celebrity's dick to make them feel comfortable to come here. Like, we have to have real conversations, because I think about you. I think about the 12-year-olds who watch this sideshow and think that this is real life. I watch how the gangbangers used him and how he used them, and how street culture is a real thing in our communities that are killing a lot of young black and brown kids. And so for me, I was intrigued by that part of who he is. But what I want to say, when you say that he thinks he's invincible, I just want to say, I hope that after our conversation, you don't feel invincible, because I hope our audience can actually
no,
strip back the layers of whatever perceptions they may have had, and they've listened to everything that you said.
no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you even wanting to take the time to even listen to anything I have to say, honestly, because like I said, if you don't care to hear my story, I don't care to tell you. That's just my attitude. So it's just, it is, October is, I'm glad that we were able to do this. October is Domestic Violence and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Um, a lot of things that I feel should be spoken on aren't spoken on with women and platforms. So I'm happy I'm able to do this and just, I guess, give people a fair chance to hear who I am or have their own opinion.
That's the point
Mm-hmm.
I was about to make, is you took the words out of my mouth. October is such a powerful month to be having these kind of conversations. And I know you're at a pace where you're at peace with this, but if somebody hasn't said this to you already, I would really, really, really encourage you to think about doing public speaking engagements, because a lot of people, particularly battered victims and survivors, could learn a lot from your testimony. I
No,
think you should
but
think
that's
about this more.
that's the thing I have. This is something I do. I
Yes.
do advocate for domestic violence and stuff like that. It's just people don't really pay mind to that because it's not a good enough headline. It's not juicy enough. They
Keep
like to
talking, girl.
focus.
Keep talking.
I know they like to focus on me going off or my mom going off rather than posting me go to high schools and talk to young girls. The last event I did, I had, I'm very open. I'm the oldest of five. I have sisters, I have cousins, aunts that are younger than me. I just have a big family and we have a lot of women. So I'm the first person to, like, in my family to be so open and forefront with it now that I talk to all the young ones in my family about it, and I bring them to the events so they can hear the stories. And as painful as it is for them to sit in the audience and hear what I had to go through, because they are my family, I want them to hear that. And last year I had a girl. I did an event. I had a girl. She was my aunt who is younger than me. That's her friend, and she was getting beat on. When I paid for this girl's cab to come to the event, and she came in shades, a oversized hoodie, and a baseball cap. And when she took off them shades, she reminded me, her face. She had two swollen black eyes, and her face brought me back to how I looked in Dubai, if not worse. And that, to this day, she hits me up and she calls me. Evelyn still reaches out to her, Evelyn's people, and she tells me all the time, had you not paid for my cab to go to your event and hear you guys talk and you guys not give me resources and help me, I probably would have been dead.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I do things like that. It's just not, people don't, not all people, but at least on social media, that's not what catches a lot of people's eyes. And it's sad because everything has to be a juicy headline or salacious, or someone has to be beefing with each other for it to have attention, or you have to see the ass or titties somewhere. But it's just like, that's just, I learned to take social media for what it is as long as I could give back in the ways that I do, I'm happy with that. So
Well, listen, I'm glad that you're doing your part and using your story as a testimony to help other people. And I actually reached out to you, just so we're clear on the timeline. We reached out to you before the whole charges with the 13-year-old happened, because
yeah,
I had just been seeing you talked about repeatedly. I'm like, where's her voice? Like, who's talking to her? Like, we need to hear what she's saying and let her say her side, because I think it's just disrespectful. It's like insult on injury to beat somebody, rape them, neglect their child that they have with them, and then on top of that, smear their character in the media, and then just like
yes. But
think it's okay.
do you expect anything less from a narcissist? Like, that's he's textbook, and it's. I wish a lot of people can see that, because the more clear you see it, the more easier it is to handle him and deal with him or understand him. Like,
Mhm.
he's losing his shit, you know. So it's just, that's just where I'm at, and like, more peace to him. Let him figure his stuff out. I just personally don't need it nor want it in my space with how I handle my daughter and how I raise her. For him to figure it out.
Well, Sarah, I appreciate you coming on the show. I just got a place in New York, so don't be surprised if I hit you up and
Thank you.
tell you to meet me. Tell you to meet me in Dykeman. Though I don't go to
Oh,
Brooklyn,
you
I go
wanna
to
be there?
Dykeman.
Okay. No, of course. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me and ask me basically whatever it is that you guys wanted to ask me and get to know me a little bit more.
And thank you for answering everything, because I know, like, it's not always easy to talk about the stuff that we talked about today, but I know that there's
Mhm.
going to be at least one person out there who feels like now they could tell their story because you told yours. So thank you for doing that.
Amen.
Thank you. I appreciate it all. Thank you.
Of course. So we'll be in touch. Peace.